What's going on, jerk faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's a conversation you could be having during the day, but having at night. Yes, you are not mistaken. We are live this week. I have returned from my fishing trip. No more worse for wear. With me, as ever, co-piloting this thing, the Chewbacca to my Han Solo, the homeboy Rob.
Well, at least arguably the coolest sidekick in anything that I can think of.
Right? I mean, he's like the most badass sidekick because he rips arms out of sockets.
That is true.
Right? I know Robin doesn't do that crap. He just prances around in his tights.
That absolutely. You're right.
Yes. I hope you guys enjoyed the pre-tape that we had. I definitely had a blast with our special guest Eric talking
I'm
about
still
the.
coming up with theories I have about that film.
What was that?
I'm still coming up with new ideas and theories about that film.
Me too. I was just one really quick one. I was thinking about what Eric had said about, maybe he's, maybe Ben was a human trafficker, and then I was thinking about like his little get-togethers that he has with his friends. It's like, well, maybe they're like kind of, what if they're like brokers or like representatives for people who buy people, and like that
That's
party is and that party is like the kind of showcase to like, so it's to see if like any of them might have potential like buyers or something.
that's true. That's a possibility. It's just, man, that movie was really good. I mean, it's like I watched it, a couple times, but now it's about like a week or so ago, and I'm still thinking about the film. And I'm still mesmerized by the whole idea of the light reflection and all that stuff, and how
Mm-hmm.
that plays into it, and um, just a fantastic movie.
Just
Go watch
for
it. If
those
you've
of you
seen
who
it,
might,
go watch it again.
huh?
Even it's like, I'm telling everyone, it's like, even if you've seen it, go watch it again. It's that good.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah. For those of you who are not quite understanding or have no idea what we're talking about, me, Robert, and then our friend Eric Nam watched this movie, Burning, a Korean film starring Walking Dead star what's Stephen Yeun, and it's a really good movie. Highly recommend it. Go watch it, and then go watch our last week's episode, the pre-tape that we did about discussing it and dissecting it and coming up with theories and all that stuff. To fully understand like what we're talking about. But yes, highly recommend that movie. Go watch it. It is definitely worth it.
Oh, it was amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Rob, how was your weekend?
It was pretty good. I'm trying to think. What did I do? What did I do? Mainly just I worked. I've been working on getting a Bible study together, because a few of us, myself, and a few others included, we're going to be doing a Bible study soon. So
Mm-hmm.
since I'm the one that's leading it, I figured I might as well start getting everything prepped.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I'm getting pretty excited for that. Other than that, not too much. I mean, last week after we finished the pre-tape, I went and kind of, since I had the day off, I kind of hung out with a friend. Went to Pineapple, just kind of hung out with some people there, and then
Mm-hmm.
after that, really not much else. Just worked, getting ready for my short vacation that I'm taking this week, so
Mm-hmm.
that'll be fun. I'm not going anywhere, but I got stuff that I'm actually gonna have a real weekend. So
Right, you're doing what the kids would call a staycation.
yeah, pretty much. Got a thing I'm doing with my family Thursday night, I might actually be doing a, collaboration thing with a friend of ours that's been on the channel. You know him as MMO Von. We
Oh
had him
yeah.
on several months ago.
Mhm.
Um, I might be doing a live stream with him
Mhm.
at some point.
Cool.
Maybe like sometime on Thursday. Friday, I'm probably going to be going to a Dodger game. And Saturday, we're going to be doing some more filming. So that'll be fun.
Awesome.
And in between that, I'm just going to be just doing stuff around the apartment.
Finally, getting around to cleaning the mess.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I've already started doing that, so it's going well.
Yeah, I mean, I know when I mean, those of you who are unaware, when we film the podcast, it's at Robert's place, and I mean, if we could turn the camera around, uh,
It's
I
yeah,
think,
it's
yeah, a
definitely
lot of our audience would be surprised.
it's definitely untidy. Uh,
Mm,
that's just mainly because I'm just not there very often. So it's
right.
just like
I mean,
when I get
it's a
home,
very
it's
much a guy's apartment.
oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, as for me, my week when was pretty good. I mean, I came back from my fishing trip and did pretty okay. I mean, I didn't catch a lot of fish, but I didn't come up as much as I would like to have because I mostly caught babies, and that was a little bit frustrating because my dad and my uncle were kicking my ass catching dinner plate sized perches. Um, so it kind of got to my pride was definitely dented uh, last
You
week.
know they bought those fish beforehand.
I know, right?
Just
Yeah, it's when my back was turned. They stuck it on their hooks and they threw it back and they reeled it back in. It's like, oh, look at our gun! I was
why is there
like,
so ice? Why is there ice on this fish?
I know. Why is this perch frozen?
Yeah. Oh man, what a! But I saw some of the pictures. It looked pretty good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What is it? Yeah. I mean, the first the first big three that we caught. We prepared them immediately and had a really good like fresh sashimi.
Mm.
Yeah, so that was nice. And then the second day, again, I just kept catching babies, so I just threw them back. But my dad and my uncle caught the biggest ones, and we kept those and brought it home for my mom because she likes to dry out the fish and then fix this one particular Korean dish where
Oh, I think
you kind of dry the fish and then you smother it in like some chili flakes and some sesame seed oil, and then you steam it, and it's pretty tasty eats.
yes, it is. I've had it before. It's awesome.
Yeah. And for the weekend, I think I dodged a bullet because I was supposed to go watch the new X-Men movie, Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, I heard it was
Yeah,
a.
but yeah, I was looking at the reviews, from people that I trust, and it was like it just wasn't getting good,
Good
reviews.
track.
I mean,
Yeah.
they're saying like it was from out but it wasn't like saying like, oh, this movie was great. It was like saying it was okay to like this is a total dog shit. And so, I mean, I have the AMC A list subscription, so it really didn't hurt me. So I just basically canceled my reservation and didn't go. But I did. But in lieu of that, me and James met up along with his brother and sister-in-law, and we headed out to K Town to catch the fights this past Saturday, and that was really exciting. We were also trying to coordinate with what's her face? Christina. I'm sorry.
Yeah, one of
So
those.
Christina, if you're watching, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Who are
Uh,
you again?
I know. But yeah, we were out there. We were out there for a good long time. We watched all the fights. They're really really fun, really entertaining time. And we also try to coordinate with her. She was gonna go out to downtown like with some girlfriends and do some bar hopping. But she also, but prior in like the afternoon to early evening, she had other plans. So we were just gonna kind of like meet up somewhere in the middle. But it didn't quite end up. It didn't quite end up working out. Um, Me, James, his brother, and his sister-in-law, we went out to this lounge in Koreatown, and it was actually fun. Not as crowded as some other places. Really good music, lots of room to dance. Uh, but because we had such like a because we were there pretty early. We were watching the fight since like 6 o'clock, and us being a bit on the older side, we decided to just call it a night.
Yeah. I get to that point now too.
Yeah. I don't think necessarily it was, not to throw anybody under the bus. I think me and James, if it was just us out, like we would totally just like, figured it out and gone to meet Christina and stuff like that. But I think, because it was with his brother and his sister-in-law, and they had just gotten into town, and I'm sure like, they were feeling a little bit jet lagged, so we were sensitive to that, and so we just took them
Makes
home.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, good times all around, either way.
Sounds like a fun week.
What was that?
Sounds like a fun week.
Yeah, it was very fun. Although now I have the pleasure of working on the latest episode to get it out by next week.
I know it's going to come out great.
You're damn right it is. All right, let's get into some of the topics. Well, I mean, Rob, since these are kind of both your things, so where do you want to start off,
So,
Eric?
well, I guess we should tackle the I guess the real like thing that's big in the news now with the whole the Vox adpocalypse thing
Mm-hmm.
that's going on with what Carlos Maza
Mm-hmm.
at Gaywonk as his Twitter handle, his actual Twitter handle.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a call for. Yeah, he was bitching with YouTube that they should demonetize Steven Crowder because Steven Crowder does a lot of rebuttal of their god awful, like, quote unquote news projects that they put out,
Mm-hmm.
which, you know, as much if you can really call Vox news, but yeah. So there was that, and I'm gonna say like straight up, my theory behind all this of why this is all of a sudden now has to become a thing. Um, I think part of it has to do with it being Pride Month, or which why that's a thing. I'll be honest, I'm really tired of all of it. I don't need to see a month long celebration of rainbow flags and just I'm not a prideful person. I'm not a huge fan of like parades and all this sort of stuff. Like I just so, but yeah. So I think it has a lot to do with that. It has a lot to do with coming up on the 2020 election cycle and with all the hate that President Trump gets and his victory is credited to a lot of like social media stuff. So, what better way to uh, kind of put an end to, kind of help Democrats win by, kind of censoring uh, kind of right wing or conservative sources, or even if there's like a breath of conservatism in it, they want to shut it down. So if so, if you don't know, like there's this whole battle, like so, pretty much his entire channel was he was called the Carlos Maza was calling for an entire just like Alex Jonesing of his channel, just completely eradicate it, and saying how there's all these violate guideline violations, which there was not. Uh, they were able to show it's like how none of their content violated YouTube's guidelines, which YouTube said it's like there's nothing we can do. Yeah, it's not speech that we like, but it does not violate our guidelines as they are currently put out. And I think the reason that they did that because they've come under fire recently uh, because the Ladder with Crowder, that whole channel pushed back on them recently with a lot of stuff that they were trying to censor them and block stuff and cut stuff out and give them strikes and all that stuff, that they fought back successfully and won. It's like, no, you're doing stuff that's not right. You're not following your own guidelines. You're not doing all this stuff. So Crowder and his team fought back. And so I think this is why they decided it's like what they're doing has nothing that doesn't violate our guidelines. There's nothing that we can do. But then, um, Carlos Maza in typical, lefty millennial fashion, bitch some more, but which bitch whined and cried his way to um, getting the whole channel demonetized. Which, to be honest, the majority of their videos already were. So it's like. Um, so there's that whole thing, and it wasn't just the Crowder channel. From this whole thing, and it kind of all happened at once. There's a whole list of channels that were either demonetized, videos just deleted, or were just outright just banned for no reason. And
Right. I mean, yeah, YouTube had like their own version of Crystal Knock.
oh yeah,
Um,
no, and it wasn't just one or two channels. It was at least what, like 50 to 100 channels.
yeah, I heard 1,000. Like 1,000.
Was it even? Oh
I
man,
heard 1,000 channels were affected.
that's insane.
Yeah.
And like I said, I know we've talked about like some of the about Crowder himself, like kind of behind the scenes, and like yeah, there if I know you've kind of fallen kind of like out of not where you don't necessarily like him as much, and if some of the stuff I've heard about him is true, it's like that's kind of fucked up and
Right.
not
I
good.
mean, it's more of like not that not that I don't agree with his stances on certain things, but just some things about about his personal
It,
nature have come
right, right.
forward, and which kind of make me like go like that's not right, and and maybe
No, yeah, no, that's kind of like what I meant. And
yeah.
then the but with that, it's kind of like how I felt about the whole Jordan Peterson thing. It's like what he's talking about though, kind of
Mm-hmm.
it's transcended him. And so yeah, maybe personally, like I might not like him as much,
Mm-hmm.
but what he stands for, the content that he puts out, what he's talking about, I think is good. And the
Right. I
fact
mean,
that
I
like
guess it then goes to the kind. I guess it then kind of goes to the idea of having a nuanced view of somebody. I mean, especially with the revelations of Doctor King that came out recently. About his private dealings and you know and questionable morality. Um, so I think so yeah, I mean I understand like I understand there being nuance to people and being and shades of gray and maybe like the mess what the good that they do not balances out the bad, but that there's an importance to their work. I mean, like if I mean, because these are all just like especially in the case of Dr. King, these are more like alleged and I mean, kind of from credible sources. But if if these things about him come out to be not true, then or maybe more sensationalized than they actually are, then I think people should take a measured approach uh, to Dr. King and some other people as well.
Yeah, well, when it comes like to go on that rabbit trail a little bit, it's like, to be honest, there does seem to be quite a bit of smoke to that fire
Mm-hmm.
of some just because like a lot of those supposed documents are they're still like under seal until I think 2028.
Right.
And it wasn't just the like the FBI, CIA that was saying this. It was people that were close to him, that were his friends, that were with him during this time, that talked about this stuff. And it just so happened that the FBI, like some of the documents that we do know that are out there that are declassified, corroborated it. So
Mm-hmm.
um, but that's not to say that it's like, oh well, we can just throw him to the outer exterior darkness, and everything that he all of a sudden, because that's the problem with today. We have too many
Right. I
people
mean,
that
because
are like
yeah,
that left
someone put it
view of, oh, they did one thing bad, everything is bad.
right. It's kind of the same
Everything.
way with like the Confederate statues or or petitioning for George Washington's name to be taken off a school or a statue or Thomas Jefferson's. Like, oh well, even though they wrote this incredible document that we are all living under. Oh, but they own slaves, so they have to be they have to be torn down. They have to be erased from history. I mean, similarly to for Dr. King, it's like, well, he did all of these horrific things, which I don't want to mention again, but if you really want to look it up, then look it up yourself. But they're really horrendous things that and distasteful things. Um,
Yeah.
but then if those things are true, then should we then call for his monuments to be torn down, all the streets that bear his name to be renamed? No longer do we then celebrate his birthday.
But I see it, and I don't think that's true either, because there's a lot of good that he did accomplish,
Well,
despite being a
precisely
very
the fact.
flawed
But that's
character.
exactly illustrating my point because people on the left, they don't embrace the nuance. They don't embrace the I hate saying this, but the greater good that these figures have done. Um, and they take they take the maybe the one part of their lives and make it equal to all the they take the one bad thing like uh, about these people's lives and make it way or equate that or set it up higher above all the good things that they did.
Yeah. So
So But yeah, I mean, let's not get too far in the weeds in this because we were talking about the kind of demonetization that was happening, and we don't bring this up just to kind of uh, cheerlead for Steven Crowder or for the people who got demonetized, but we also talk about it because being on YouTube ourselves, it's gonna affect us. I mean, we're nowhere in the league of Steven Crowder or or oh, oh yeah, that Vincent from the Red Elephants, or any like more well established right wing YouTubers. But it like now that YouTube has rolled out these new kind of guidelines, or enforcing certain guidelines and coming up with others on the fly, it does affect us, and how we can how we can grow our channel, how we can potentially start making money off of the podcast and these live streams. Uh, so it is worrying for us. Um,
Yeah.
because we do have plans. Um, and because I would like, I think I would like to do this, full time and get paid for it. And then I'm sure Robert, you too, wouldn't mind, doing this for a living, and giving up your glamorous life at the post office.
Yeah, yeah, all right. Yeah, I mean that's the goal. I mean, sure, we don't do it for the money, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like if because I do this because I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I like doing the stuff that we do, and the fact that if we actually get money from that, it gives us the opportunity to do more things, more fun things, different things.
Mm-hmm.
Get other interesting, exciting people in, and
Right. I mean, yeah,
yeah.
because I mean, if I'm to lay out all of my cards, I could, I kind of see this thing growing into like a media franchise, and bringing people and starting producing shows, and and kind of having like a little. I mean, I'm not going to be so bold or ambitious to say empire, but a media fiefdom.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because like I would love to get start producing shows for like my friends, especially like friends who I think who do really great. Uh, on here, like I mean, I think I for sure Dancing Jason needs his own show.
Oh, clearly at 1,000% on that.
you know, um, and I would love, yeah, and I would love to produce other types of content, not necessarily news commentary or things like that. Um, because who wants to constantly hear about the gloom and doom of of the real world. Just kind of create some escapism kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like why I mean that's our motto.
uh, oh yeah, oh yeah, what was it?
But and we kind of saw a lot of this coming though because we saw with the whole Alex Jones thing. I mean that was the first pillar,
Right,
and
that was the test case to see if we would have abided it, or the public at large would have abided such a thing to happen. And I mean, for the most part, not especially especially those on the right. No, a lot of them didn't come to the aid of Alex Jones. Um, and it was funny because like a lot of people that I watch, they kind of they they're upset that it happened, but they weren't necessarily kind of like rallying behind him and saying that you know that they weren't necessarily saying it was a bad thing though. Even though they were saying like, "Oh, this sucks," and how dare how could they do that? Um,
But no one really backed him up. I
yeah,
mean,
no one
there
really backed
that's
them up, and I think yeah, because someone who I've come to really appreciate is Owen Benjamin, and Owen Benjamin was the only one. I mean, he's kind of fallen out of not love, but okay, let's say like he's fallen out of like with Alex Jones, and and he was one of the first people to go and and rally behind him.
yeah.
Um,
But yeah, yeah, like I said, you can't start off like where attacking some of the more kind of mainstream conservative guys like they started maybe with like Crowder or like Ben Shapiro or the guys that kind of we all know that are fairly popular. Uh, there probably would have been a hell of a lot more outcry. So you start with like the people who the rest of us may not agree with
mhm,
on anything. Like, oh, what he says is kind of icky. Like, that yeah, it's like maybe he should. It's kind of the soft thing where you move the line slightly, inching closer and closer,
mhm,
because what the reality is, they don't want any of these people to exist or to have
right.
some sort of platform.
Mhm,
But but you can't start here. You have to start at the outskirts, and then you
exactly.
just move that line further and further in, and that's exactly what's happening. And it was, to to use the language of the left. I mean, in a Nazi-esque move, it was Kristallnacht. I mean,
Yeah.
they went to town, and I
Yeah,
think
I mean,
there's
and of course, yeah, they had to, they had to get rid of everyone. I mean, not just on YouTube, but just in social media in general, they had to get everyone that was influential, off the platforms, to make sure that Donald Trump or maybe even someone Trump esque couldn't ever come up again.
right. And yeah, it's just it's it's nuts, man. Um, I don't like it.
Right? Yeah, I mean, the actions taken should send a chill up everybody's spine. And I mean, I kind of don't have any hope for anyone on the far left, but anyone who considers themselves center left, I hope you're getting a little frostbite on your back, because it could definitely happen to you. I mean, New York Times just put out a hit piece on supposed far right commentators and influencers, and like on the collage they had, it was funny because they had like one guy like three times, uh, and then also like they also had like Philip DeFranco, who's more center, who's more moderate or center left. But he was grouped in with all of these like kind of far right commentators. So if you think that this isn't going to happen to you, you
It
you need
is.
to grow eyes in the back of your head.
Yeah, it's just it's nuts, man. Yeah, anyone that's not kowtowing that line of just radical socialist. Um, I mean, they're going to town on those people. Yeah, at the same at the same time, all this supposed like bad language, negative language, all this negative stuff. They have you still have your Stephen Colbert's that's or your Samantha Bees and all these other people that they put their clips out on YouTube. Nothing happens to them.
Right. What is it? Yeah. Colbert had that joke about how Donald Trump, his mouth was, the cock holster for Putin. It's like, well, how was that allowed to be put on YouTube, and how was there no, cry, no cries of foul from, the LGBTQ, LMNOP section, make basically, because Colbert basically made a gay slur.
Yeah, essentially.
Essentially, I mean, yeah, essentially, yeah. That Colbert was making fun of, the act of, one man filleting another man. So like how,
Yeah,
yeah. So how was it? So how, why was there no outcry from the LGBT LMNOP section?
because it was against someone that they don't like. So it's like, oh, it's
Exactly,
fine.
exactly.
It's a insane double standard.
Of course it is. So yeah, I mean, I think the only safe bet you have is to, be everywhere, and be on like be on every platform you can, not just the cool one, or the, authorized ones like Facebook or YouTube or Twitter. You know, I mean, we're already kind of set up. I just haven't gotten around to backing up our stuff, but we have a BitChute account. We have a what is it? What's that live streaming one?
Twitch.
Twitch. That's right. We have a Twitch account. We have, we're backed up. So, if the day ever comes, we will be ready. Um, but I think it's important that, we also try and, stand our grounds uh, for as long as we can, because then, I think it shows that, we're not going to be pushed around. We're not going to be, even though they hammer us, we have to show that, we can take it, because that's the only way that they'll respect us is, we take every punch that they give us, and we still remain standing.
You got to fight the good fight.
And not in that way that where you're actually advocating for violence, like that CBS show.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, where
no.
they like, it's funny because like they can, here's the thing. I don't know if I think we did. I talked about this, but you weren't here. Uh, uh, like the promo is like, it'd be one thing if the promo was talking about the, you know what's that fool's name? Something Spencer, Richard Spencer. Yeah, it'd be one thing if they were talking about the Richard Spencer, stand-in character in that show. But what they were doing, like when that character in that show was giving the monologue, he was actually talking about an actual person in real life, and saying how, like, sometimes, you have to punch the Nazi. Basically advocating for violence.
Goddamn.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you remember. It was like a month and a half, 2 months ago.
I
Um,
feel like I think we talked about this behind the scenes too.
oh,
You were telling me
that's
this.
maybe, yeah. But yeah, it was like, yeah, the CBS, they put out that clip where, the character, there's like, kind of like this, almost riot going on behind him, and, he's talking about how, like, oh, maybe sometimes, punching people is the right thing to do, and it's just like, what? And then he brings in like an actual, like, a real life person in real life, talking about, like, it's like, oh, sometimes, someone's words are so egregious and so offensive that the only response is to punch them. It's just like, what? So are you fucking kidding me right now?
Yeah, that's I don't know. I don't know if there's going to be at some point where we do have an alternative to the the giant tech companies and stuff.
Hmm.
We have like more like where there's more freedom to do kind of like content. Do you like all that type of stuff? I don't know if that day will ever come. Um, there's gonna come a point where there's gonna be a breaking point in all of this at some point. Just in this whole because there's no dialogue anymore hardly
Right.
with
Right.
people.
What is it? Yeah. I mean, we're essentially in the powder keg, because the most extreme sides, don't want to come meet in the middle, and there isn't enough. I don't think there is and like every time we do try to engage, like, or like the right tries to engage the left, the only one that comes to meet them are the fringe crazies.
Yeah,
It's
pretty
I mean
much.
that's I mean that not to say that reasonable measured debate doesn't happen sometimes, but all I see is kind of moderate right wing person coming out and like just trying to make an argument and try to make his case based on facts and evidence and all that stuff, and then you see this purple haired land cow just screaming in his face and smashing people over the head with bike locks.
Yeah, we're throwing milkshakes.
Yeah, or throwing milkshakes. I mean, I think like the closest thing that I have to experience that is with a homie of mine. He during the election he was a Bernie bro, and he has pretty he does lean to the left, and he does believe in like social programs and things like that. Um, and I remember one time we were actually on our way to a wedding, and he was saying how something to do about his health, and how like at the time I don't think he had enough coverage, and he said to me, he's like, oh, well, I know you don't want like anyone to have health insurance or coverage or like that. I was like, whoa, 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 bro. Like, let's back it up here a second. I'm not saying that I don't want people to have insurance or I don't want people to be covered. I just don't want the government to be involved, and I don't want the government to tax my ass to go and to take my money and then to go and give it to somebody else. That's all my position is on healthcare, and I just want government to be out of the process. And then like he kind of had like that light bulb moment. It was like, oh well, I didn't know that. And it's like, well, yeah. It's like you think I don't want people to have like health insurance or
Yeah,
have access to health care? It's like, are you fucking kidding me? So of course I do.
like
It's like I just want I would want it to be affordable enough where you don't have to go to the government, or you can honestly you could just pay for it yourself out of your own pocket. And is that so wrong?
no, yeah, because whenever the government gets involved, it's just they fuck it up so bad.
Yeah, I mean, what is it? Yeah, once you add government to something, it's like throwing sand, glue, and tar into the gear. All three, not just one, all three.
Yeah, and we've talked about some of the historical government failures. It was the with the um, like the railroads.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, the um, crap,
Yeah, the
the
phone lines.
phone lines. Uh, Anytime that they stick their noses and stuff, and where it really doesn't belong,
Mm-hmm.
it's a complete disaster.
Word. Yeah, and I mean, yeah, if we could have like debate, if we could have interactions like I had with my friend, you know, I think we would be in a much better place in society, and it'd be one more shovel of gunpowder taken away from the pile.
Yeah, and it's like even like last week when I was at Pineapple, I had kind of an interesting discussion with someone who was not necessarily like in agreement with me, but I was like, I kind of I felt like we left at a good point where it's like it kind of same thing with your friend where it's like kind of the light bulb went off. I was like, oh, I've never considered it that way. And see, that's the great part about like, no, I don't hate the person I'm talking with. It's like I might just because I disagree with someone doesn't mean that I want them to you know go to hell and burn and die. It's no, it's just I disagree with these ideas, but that's okay. That's what makes that's what the United States is all about. Yeah, it's a we all have a bunch of different ideas, but we find a way to compromise and make it work.
Right. Exactly. Because I mean, for the past or at least better part of a decade, it was only going one way. And we a lot of people were just not aware, or kind of lulled into this sense of this false sense of security. And then but then it wasn't but it wasn't until the end when we started people started to like wake up and be like, wait a minute, why is it this way, or why do we have to do this, or why does the government have to take this much from me, and it's like, why did the government do that again? It's like, oh really? And so we start people starting to wake up.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. And now it's like, man, it's you get the you're seeing the claws and like the just the kind of peeling back the mask and seeing the demon below, kind of beneath everything. And it's like, oh
Mm-hmm.
shit,
Yeah.
it's time to wake up and fight back
All right.
with our
But
ideas.
yeah. Well, to put a pretty little bow on this whole Carlos Maza thing, I didn't even mean that to be funny, but it kind of ended up being funny. Um, yeah, I mean it's a really scary time, but I think you should just keep just keep creating. I mean, if you are a small creator, like us, I think it's just important to keep creating, and even when they threaten you you know with a strike or whatever, just fight it, because they're expecting you not to fight it. They want you to be afraid. It's like, oh, like they want you to comply, so they threaten something to and then they use that fear to be like, oh, okay, I'll be a good boy, I'll be a good Zer, and take down the video or edit this part out or what have you. But if you stand your ground and say no, like, or prove that I broken TOS or whatever. It's to quote one of my favorite TV shows, Battlestar Galactica. Uh, Commander Adamas, once said, you can't run forever. If you run, the boys will just keep chasing you. Sometimes you have to turn around and hit them in a sensitive area, and then they'll back off.
Yep. And once people see that you'll stand up for yourself, they tend to not do it quite as much
Right?
or at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. On to the next bit of, or the next story. Robert, again, take it away.
Oh, so so Jordan Peterson, who we've talked about a number of times on this show and channel, um, and say what you will about him, I still think that he, in a lot of ways, his message has transcended himself. But one of my contentions with him, something that I don't necessarily agree with or necessarily like, but he always seems very uncomfortable when asked like, if he's a Christian, because a lot of his his idea of the 12 rules for life, and a lot of this, he talks about like the kind of religion, Christian, Judeo-Christian values, all that stuff, and how it kind of shaped kind of the stuff that he's doing now. But he's always kind of recoiled at like he's never really answered the idea of whether he's a Christian or not. Well, he finally put out a or I don't know if this was his own article that he wrote or if it was someone that like they were talking to him and they were writing about it. But essentially, like, he answered the question as to why he doesn't call himself a Christian. And well, for one, is he's probably not. I can't make that judgment just because we don't know what's on men's hearts. But he's saying in essence that because we are such flawed creatures that really the only one that can live up to the standards of Christianity was one man, which was Christ himself. So how can the rest and so he's really the only Christian that's ever existed. And I was like it's like it's like he was like right in the ballpark, but oh my god, he missed it so bad. It was pretty much like he was trying to throw a football into a basketball hoop. It's just kind of he was in the right area, but like he just got it completely wrong.
Right. It
And
was like it looked it's like he hit it down third and it was in, but then it goes out.
yeah, and here's the problem with how I use it, and I've always kind of criticized his um, some of the religious philosophy and theology that he promotes, because I think the conclusions that he comes to is for the most part a right idea, and especially with like his book and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But the trajectory of how he got there, it's like I don't know how you got to this end point, but all the work, kind of like in math, show your work. Looking at all the work to get to that conclusion, it's like it feels like he cheated, took the answer, but the way that he got there was just would not. It doesn't follow. It doesn't track to the answer. Um, at least in my small mind. And here's one problem with what he talked about is like essentially the gospel message. You look at the book of Romans, which is kind of the his Apostle Paul's letter to the Roman Church, and
Mm-hmm.
it's very theology heavy, and it talks about this very problem that Jordan Peterson was talking about, and saying that yes, none of us are good, none of us live up to the standard. We've all
Yeah.
failed.
What is it? What is it like in the first chapter? It's like all have sinned and fallen short of the grace of God.
Yeah, and it's like no man is good. Um, so yeah, so in that point, Jordan Peterson's correct. Yes, we're all very flawed. We don't have it. Bam, he's got that. The problem is though, it's like there's a huge in all that stuff that Paul talks about. There's a huge comma, but there is a way, and
Mm-hmm.
God knew that, and He made a way for His creation to kind of follow that good and to become a part of that. And that's Jesus Christ, the sacrifice on the cross, rising from the grave. That is, and yes, we do not meet um, 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 God's standard, but through Christ, because we have um,
Because
paired
we're given
ourselves.
grace.
Yeah, we've paired ourselves with Christ, so we are seen, we are justified, we are seen to have that standard.
Right.
Um,
It's like the whole
and
point is like what is it? What's that term? My pastor uses it all the time. Um, propitiation. That's what it is. Propitiation.
right, yeah,
Yeah. So
by both.
when the day comes, when we have accepted Christ and the day comes, we face our Creator. He no longer sees us and our sins, he sees Christ.
Exactly.
So
And like I said, he was right there, but he didn't get it. And something that
yeah, he
kind
basically
of
spiked the ball. He spiked the ball at the 1 yard line.
pretty much. And it's like, man, you almost had it. And that's the whole point of Christian. That's part of the reason why I am a Christian, because I see the flaw in humanity. Like we're not perfect. We're not, we're not going to attain some, nirvana or all this other stuff that it's like where it's all on our shoulders to kind of reach this spiritual goodness, and maybe we did good enough.
Or you think
That's
you
why to
you
me all
know
the
you
other
think you already have the ticket. You already have the ticket to the boat because you're a chosen person.
well, I mean, Paul does address the idea, the issue with Israel later on in the book of Romans, but
Mhm.
it's the idea. It's like all these other religions, it doesn't match up. And to me, when I heard the gospel for the first time, it's like that's who God is. That's it right there.
Mhm.
Because we're so flawed. We're unable. I'm unable to do it on my own. But I have someone that created me and made a way for me to reach that path. Um, and all I had to do was, that doesn't mean I can just do whatever I want, but it by believing in Christ, my life has changed forever. I am now, justified. I think maybe, if not to say, because I'm going to go with 2 points here. One is, if he's not a Christian, he's a smart guy, right? And
Mhm.
a book that I promoted a few weeks ago called Grasping God's Word, it talks about like it asks a big question. It's like, can non-believers understand the Bible? It's the answer is yes, but not completely. And because there is a lot of like historical narrative, there's if you understand how to read and know reading comprehension,
Mhm.
and you're a smart guy, you can kind of understand the basic idea of the stories and all that stuff, right? But
Mhm.
it's stuff like this that you miss out on. That it's like, because you're right there. You kind of got the point, but you didn't get the point.
Mhm.
And Jesus talks about like so I'm telling you straight. I'm telling you exactly how it is, but you don't have the ears to listen. It's like you're hearing it, but you're not hearing it. You're reading it, but you're not reading it. Um, the other thing is like, if um, if he is a Christian, I think maybe what he's struggling with is what all Christians struggle with, is that we are in this point where, yes, we are justified. God sees us as perfect. But the thing is, like, but we're not perfect, right? We're in this weird state in this world where we are justified, we're perfect, but we're also in this process of being, made, formed into the image of Christ, where we're still being perfected. We have to wrestle and struggle with that, and it's a tough thing for Christians to handle. I know I struggle with it all the time. It's like, it's just, there's always this constant wrestling with kind of wanting to become more like Christ, yet we're still
Yeah.
like having to
Yeah.
deal with a lot of these worldly issues.
Yeah. There's this phrase that I heard, and it's so perfectly encapsulates everything. Uh, I can't remember the first part. It's like we're this, but not yet.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
because I think because if salvation was really the only important thing to God, then as soon as we accepted Christ, we would be taken up to heaven. But
essentially.
because at the end of Matthew and Mark and Luke and whatever, he gives us a mission, a commission. He wants us to spread the word, and I think, and so it's not just about salvation and going to paradise. It's we have to let people know about we have to let as many people as we can know about this, before we are taken up into heaven. Right? And I think
Right.
that's the difference between Christianity and all other religions, because
Yeah, and like I said, it's and there's a great line that I've been hearing is recently. It's like, all shallows are clear. So yeah, if you're thinking shallowly, if you're and so it's like, oh yeah, it looks clear, but the truth, in reality, things are a lot muddier than that. Where it's if you look into deep waters, like you're not going to be able to see the bottom necessarily
mhm.
because it's so deep. And
ah, mhm.
that's where Christianity really comes in. To me, this is truth, but the truth isn't always nice or it's not always easy to follow, but it's still the truth. We have to follow it. And like the whole idea is like, yeah, where do I live up to God's standards? Hell no, I don't. Not at all. But at the same time, that is what I strive towards. That is what I fight for. That's what I wrestle with. Is I'm always trying, yeah, I am always trying to, get to that point. And eventually there's going to come a time where I am perfected, that I do live up to God's standards. It's not going to be in this world, that's for damn sure. But while I am on this world, I'm going to give it my best try.
Is that it? No, I was listening to everything you said, but I was just, but it's like we're saved, but not yet. Is that the phrase?
No, well, that's not quite right either because
Right. Yeah, no, because like we're
I
something, but not yet, because our salvation, isn't the end all be all of Christianity, because we are given the Great Commission, so we are commanded to go out and make disciples of all nations. Um,
I look at it as the way of like kind of look at it as like we're in the last days of a war, right? Like the we know the war is ending, but like the
uh-huh.
treaties haven't been signed, or or it hasn't. The treaty or the end of the war declaration has been signed, but back in the day, not always the word didn't always get to the troops right away. So there's still like battles that were fought even technically after the war was over,
Uh-huh.
and people would die in those battles, but the war was over.
Mm.
So it's like we're still, in essence, we're at a point where we're still fighting some of
Yeah.
those battles, although the war is over.
Yeah.
Not a
I just think
perfect
he's a.
example.
I just think he's a crazy person and a liar. I mean, as much as I was a Jordan Peterson fanboy, because I was someone who was looking for anyone, because you know kind of because going to an art college which was very liberal, and I was I was basically taught nonsense. I was looking for anyone to be in academia and like talking some kind of sense. Um, Now I grant like his analysis of socialism and communism and all his uh, analysis and deconstruction of those particular ideologies is 100% spot on. And postmodernism too is 100% spot on. But just as a person, I'm sorry, I started to see the cracks. I mean, which might go hand in hand with someone who kind of gets authorized, as it were, or you know, or kind of becomes the sanctioned opposition.
Yeah, I just
Because
figured
one
that
being like okay, because one was being like he was supposed to be on a free speech panel with another guy that I follow, Dr. Gad Satt. He's an evolutionary psychologist, and then
Yeah.
kind of you know Canadian, like another Canadian firebrand, Faith Goldie, who went and went on a podcast with like the white supremacist guy and didn't quite condemn them enough. Um, but yeah, they were supposed to be on a panel together, but then that whole controversy happened, and uh, I heard that Jordan Peterson just like, yeah, like maybe it's not good to have her on, basically not backing up somebody who who needed who needed an opportunity to tell her story and to give her side of this to give her side of the story, but he shot her down. So kind of showing that he's not a really good a good ally, or someone who can be depended on when when it really matters. And also, but also included in that is his opinion on during the whole Brett Kavanaugh thing, saying like, oh, he should step down, um, to heal the country, basically. And it's like, well, your whole message is don't apologize to the mob. You can apologize to an individual, but you can't apologize to the mob. And what does he do? He goes against his entire message. He's asking for this guy to apologize to the mob. Um, I guess thirdly is that he I think is within the time frame of when Owen Benjamin was dropped from his representation at CAA, is that when Jordan Peterson got signed up with them.
Yeah, I do remember that happening. Mainly the reason why I brought up this article is just because he's still, despite all those things, he's still a very popular figure,
Mm-hmm.
and so there's a lot of people in the center and the right that still listen to him quite a bit,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's important to, like, when these issues come up, it's like to refute things like that. And for me, I think this is the most important thing to, like, talk about, which is theology. And I'm a staunch defender of Christianity, its tenets, theology, and when stuff like that happens, like, okay, there's a lot of stuff, like, all the other stuff. Yes, it's important, but to me, it is literal life or death. And when you're when you're kind of making statements like that, for people who aren't Christian, it's kind of just, oh, whatever, it's just another comment, right? But for
Well,
me, if you are a Christian and you're just kind of flippantly saying stuff like that,
exactly, and
there
and
there are
even if
giant
he's not a
consequences.
Christian, all he has to do is say, "Yo, I'm not a Christian," and I would have been like, "Okay, oh wait, all right, fine." And like this was
And
been
he's
about the time where I was still kind of on his side. But if he came out like early on and said like, yeah, I'm not, even though I respect the tenets of the Bible, and I think that the Bible is a good and useful book. Um, even if he explained himself and then said like, yeah, I'm not a Christian, then I would have been like, oh, that's disappointing. But oh yeah, please tell me more about how postmodernism is crap.
Yeah, and there's plenty of people that I listen to that I know aren't Christians, but they have a lot of great ideas that they're fun to listen to. Um, but yeah, it's just I think he was trying. He, at least in this particular case, is definitely kind of trying to ride the fence. And when it comes, that's when not an issue you can ride the fence on.
Right. I mean, especially when he was like he would make commentaries about the Bible or like stories from the Bible and how they're and kind of tie in like psychoanalysis, and and I thought that was pretty cool. You know, um, to kind of coming at the Bible and like and in a very like secondary or tertiary way, Christianity, a different way to approach Christianity that that you could make that you could kind of intellectually argue for. But yeah, I mean, but like statements like this where he says like, oh yeah, there's no, there were no real Christians except for Jesus. It's like you missed the entire point, man. And I can't take your intellect seriously because you know. Like anyone who's read the Bible can tell you that that was the point of Jesus. That his whole reason. Well, I mean, maybe not now because we're so. I mean, I think it's safe to say that the United States is almost not quite there yet, but we're almost a post-Christianity country.
I'd say we're there. We're already there.
Yeah, because I mean, yeah. So like, even back in the day, even if you didn't know, you weren't a Christian, you still knew the reason why Jesus came, or the supposed reason, even if you didn't follow the religion or the theology. You
Right.
could say like,
You
oh,
had
why did Jesus
something.
come? Like, and someone like 20, 25 years ago would have been sent to die for the sins of mankind.
Yeah, and you had a rudimentary knowledge of that stuff,
Exactly.
but not
Yeah.
today. Um,
Yeah. I
and
mean,
you
especially
even
like that basic question, that basic of a question would have been able to been answered by anyone in the country,
yeah.
like Christian or
Well, it's
not.
like yeah, and even like the stuff like that Pearson did with like his kind of approaching some like the Bible in a different way through like his own analysis. Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't necessarily agree with the road that he took to get there, but
Mm-hmm.
some of the point, like his conclusion points, is like were fairly solid. Like it kind of got the point of like what I feel like sometimes like what God is trying to teach in those stories, and it wasn't complete. I don't think it was complete bunk,
Mm-hmm.
but I think he got there, more or less. Like I said, there's you can understand the Bible to when you're not a Christian. You can understand the Bible to a certain point, but and I don't know how to describe this like per se. It's like there is that like veil that's covered almost like where it's like you see it but you don't see it at the same time. Yeah, like
Oh
when
yeah,
you're
it's
not a
like
believer, it's
it's like you're looking at it, but you don't see it. It's like looking at a cloud, and someone says, "Hey, that's like a rabbit," and you look at that same cloud, but you don't see the rabbit.
yeah, exactly. It's exactly like that. Yeah. Um, and so I think there's definitely a lot of that in there, but who knows? I just felt it was important to talk about it, to refute it, kind of give a kind of defend the faith a little.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. All right. Let's move on to the last bit. I mean, for tonight, which is our review and continue. I know we took a little hiatus to do last week's pre-tape for Burning, but back on our theme month, which is Kevin Conroy Batman's.
Oh yeah, it's
And
our Batman.
any '90s kid knows what we're talking about. Like the definitive voice of Batman is Kevin Conroy.
Oh yeah, the the best.
Yes. So yeah, this week we watched Justice League Doom, and it's a DC animated film about the Justice League. Um, we were talking. Me and Robert were talking before the show started, and we were talking about how the live action stuff like sucks so bad. And the simple solution for Warner Brothers and DC would be to just hire the animation guys to write for the live action stuff.
Yeah. Well, I actually think they should just do something different than Marvel altogether. Just do animated films and like have their own like um, DC connected universe, but animated. because they already really have the skeleton for it. They've done it.
Right, there's already it's already set up in place, but you don't get the prestige and I think there's like I think there's more money in live action kind of stuff.
True, but if you really, I mean, you look at some of the a lot of there's been so many of the Pixar and like DreamWorks hits that have
Hmm.
made lots and lots of money.
Yeah, but I think they just wanted to milk their or Warner Brothers specifically. I think they just wanted to milk their uh, other characters because they can only make so many Batman or so many Superman movies. You have to eventually start branching out and start doing other superheroes. I
Well,
think,
no, no, like
and but then I
I
think and I think they saw what Marvel was doing and say, hey, this is working or it's working for them, so why can't we do the same thing? So
true, and they fucked it up so bad.
I know, yeah. I mean, to the point where they're rebooting Batman again with freaking Twinkly Vampire guy.
I'll say this because I made this point on Twitter about that because there's a lot of people bitching about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say this: did we ever expect Heath Ledger to be a good Joker?
Yeah, I did hear that defense, and
Because
I
that's
mean,
my
and I balked at Batfleck, and I mean, for the most part, I mean, at least in Justice, Batman versus Superman, he did a good job, but that's more like default. Um,
um, but I'll just say it's like
but
with
yeah, I
Robert
mean,
Pattinson, if you think
yeah.
about it,
Given
they're
the history with like Heath Ledger's Joker, I'm willing to reserve judgment.
like I said, yeah, because my point is like if you look at Heath Ledger and Robert Pattinson, kind of similar style like career path, like as far as like movies that they did, and then all of a sudden like Heath Ledger's the Joker, give me a fucking break. It's
Right.
like he's not gonna be any good,
That's true
and I kind of
because they did both start off kind of like as blockbuster hunks or whatever, and then they went a little bit independent, um, and then like they at least within with Heath Ledger's career arc, he got a second chance with this big thing doing the Dark Knight. So yeah,
yeah.
so
So
similarly,
now if Robert Pattinson sucks, then fuck it, like he sucks, but I'll at least give him a chance
yeah, yeah, I'll reserve judgment.
because
Anyways,
I think they're gonna go more year one Batman with him, aren't they?
well, but then that's kind of like a rehashing of Batman Begins, then, no? I mean, because
No.
yeah, I mean, I know, I get what you mean because for those of you who don't know, there was actually a comic book, uh, that they did. We're talking about like Bruce Wayne kind of starting off as Batman, which they did take elements of that to put into Nolan's, Batman Begins. Um,
But I think they're gonna be diving more heavy into like kind of that style of Batman.
okay, well, I think okay then for next week's movie, I want to suggest something. I think it was called Year One, or um, there's
Oh yeah,
actually,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, they actually did
I
a
have that. It's good.
cartoon. Or what's that one where they have it's kind they did kind of like different animation styles, but still like telling like the same story.
Well, it wasn't with different. Well, the one if we're thinking of the same one, it is called titled Batman Year One,
Hmm.
and it's not a like it's set over the course of like a whole year essentially. Um,
Okay. Okay. Yeah, there is the Year One movie, but for some reason, why am I thinking because there's like this anthology kind of one where it's like telling one story, but it's like but it's continued through like different animation styles. There's like one where it's like it looks like an anime type, like Japanese animation type, and another one looks. Uh,
I guess I don't know that one.
but again, it still fits within uh, the the theme of Kevin Conroy Batman because he voices all of the Batmans, even in their different animation incarnations.
Well, I'll have to look that up. So
Yeah, yeah,
maybe,
me too. But anyways, let's get back to this week's review, which is Justice League Doom. Justice League Doom follows the exploits of the Justice League, um, but they are put up, but a new opposing force uh, comes to light in the Legion of Doom, headed up by Vandal Savage, and Vandal. What was that?
great villain, by the way. I like Vandal
Yeah,
Savage.
Vandal Savage is a really interesting character, um, and a really great foil, I think, for a lot of different superheroes. Um, but continuing, yeah. So Vandal Savage, gathers together, some rogues from the different heroes galleries, and sets them on a task to eliminate their counterparts. Um, but the twist is that the plans are stolen from Batman. Like so, the plans to take out the Justice League are Batman's plans. Um, um, and uh, and in the end, uh, it's revealed that this was just that was just step one, the first step to Vandal Savage's true plan, which was to eliminate 2/3 of Earth's population, so that they could be managed better. Uh, this is a really interesting. This is a really fun film. Way better than the live action Justice League movie. Just saying. Um, and and of course, it's all the voice actors are the ones that we like grew up with, so it's just a little bit more special to us. So
Yeah, I think
Rob,
the only addition on this was they went with Nathan Fillion as Green Lantern only because
right? Because they went with
this
the Hal
Green,
Jordan Green
yeah,
Lantern as opposed to
exactly.
the John Stewart one, which some of you might be familiar with. But yeah, so Rob, what are your thoughts?
I really like this movie. Um, I like the fact, just kind of like it it brought back the so I don't know if anyone remembers like the back in like the 60s 70s you had kind of like the Super Friends and the Legion of Doom, and
Mm-hmm.
they kind of in a more of a grittier darker fashion they brought back the Legion of Doom. Essentially Vandal Savage kind of recreated the Legion of Doom, uh, and so it was kind of cool to see that. Yeah, although it wasn't like the necessarily the normal cast of characters in the Legion of Doom.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that was kind of like cool to see that. Seeing kind of you see like some of the tropes from like back in the day, especially their base. That's exactly what the Legion of Doom base used to look
Right, the
like.
big dome with like the like kind of like the skull eyes.
Yeah, exactly. Um, and yeah, the idea that what I liked about it is kind of finding a way to steal Batman's plans because he's always felt that he's kind of a rogue of himself. Although he's one of the ones that created the Justice League, the fact that like he doesn't it's not that he doesn't trust these guys, like saying like, "Oh, you're one step away from going bad." It was more that like there's always something that might be out there that may control you guys, and then I need to have a way to be able to myself be able to stop you. And so he kind of created these contingency plans um, to stop all of them in case that happened. And we've seen like in some of the cases, if you've watched any of like the animated series shows that that happened to Superman. He was used by Darkseid. He was brainwashed by Darkseid, and um, so there's it was just kind of like a way to like a good way to like so that was a smart idea from the the from the bad guy's point of view, and it kind of was really dark in some of the cases, like with Hal Jordan as Green Lanterns, like how they attacked him, um, how they you know went after the Flash, all this stuff. It was very very clever, um, and so there was that aspect of it, and then um, at the end, kind of like the tie-in to that point too is when they're having kind of the argument at the end, and they were gonna cast out Batman. Um, they ended up not doing it, but it was more of Superman asked him the question at the end. It's like, well, what's our contingency plan against you? And it's like, you guys are my contingency plan because you can, all you guys can like essentially kill me.
Right. Yeah, and it was kind of amazing when he realized like that his plans were being used, slightly augmented, of course, because Batman, constantly was reiterating, it's like I created these contingency plans to neutralize you, not to kill you.
Yeah, because
Um,
that's right. They were because these were meant to kill them.
yeah, because Vandal Savage then took those plans and then he augmented them to be more lethal. Um, and because Batman has that strict moral code where he doesn't kill anybody. So even if a superhero is were to go rogue or be put under brainwash, being under mind control, he still didn't want to kill them. He just wanted to neutralize them or hinder them in some capacity. Um, Yeah, it has that has to be the most badass line at the end where Superman's like, oh, it's like you're so arrogant and you didn't even come up with a plan for yourself, and Batman just kind of like between old buddies, like I did, it's called the Justice League,
Yeah,
and it's like
yeah,
it's kind of like in like in a funny way, but then also kind of in a badass way. It's like, oh, I am so like far, I'm so far beyond you guys that, I have to create an entire team of superheroes to try and stop me.
yeah. Oh, that's why I love Batman so
Yeah,
much.
but it's crazy because it's also Kevin Conroy's voice that makes it like, um, it's just his
There,
delivery and everything, his tone is just like so perfect.
it's like this. It's this smooth but gritty kind of um, voice to him. I don't know. I can't explain it. It's so good.
Yeah, I mean, anyone who grew up in the '90s and grew up with the animated Batman cartoons, then you get it, or you at least you should get it. Um, uh, but also, a lot of Batman's pride is shown through I think throughout this movie, where even in initially when he wanted to the initial setup for the movie is the Justice League taking out the Royal Flush Gang. And for those of you unaware, the Royal Flush Gang is a team of villains who dress up as playing cards, specifically the hand and poker called the Royal Flush, which goes King, Queen, Jack, 10, Ace. all of in one suit, uh, all the same suit, I should say. But then this particular Royal Flush Gang, I think all of them do. They all adopt the spade
Space.
suit.
Yep.
Yeah. And so the Royal Flush Gang commit these robberies, and the Justice League apprehend them, and they find this piece of tech that allows them to it basically looks like a giant flashlight that they shine on the wall, but in actuality it's phasing wherever that light is hitting. It's phasing like the molecules, so they can like walk right through solid matter. And Batman is so committed to the fight and everything. And he's like, oh no, I have to figure this out, blah blah blah. And one of the new like kind of leaguers, Cyborg, is like, oh no, I got this, and he like jacks into it, and it's like, oh when I find something, you'll be the first to know. And kind of in a show of pride, he kind of like sails off to the Batmobile. But he was in the ensuing battle to stop the Royal Flush Gang. He gets kind of cut up and dinged up in the fight, and he didn't show like his true uh, exhaustion or wounded or injury until he got out of the line of sight of the other Justice League members, and then he finally like let out a sigh, like, oh.
Yeah, I think. Well, and I think this kind of contrasts because the last one we watched was Mask of the Phantasm, where we do see Bruce Wayne a lot more vulnerable. Um,
Mm,
and this is kind of like the exact opposite of that. This is just like hardcore Batman and a very hardened Bruce Wayne.
right.
And
This is a very much a hardened Bruce Wayne. It isn't the Bruce Wayne from like the TAS, the animated series, where he's a lot more introspective and a lot more thoughtful about things, and he's able to like crack jokes with Commissioner Gordon. This is definitely a more hardened, more like not wanting to appear weak in front of the other like super powered heroes kind of Batman.
yeah, and so yeah, it was kind of nice, kind of seeing that contrast between uh, you know, because obviously this is a much more recent Batman as compared
Mm-hmm.
to Mask of the Phantasm,
Mm-hmm.
um, and yeah, just you see Batman's pride, and like the rest of the Justice League is essentially kind of like themselves. You always kind of like wonder too, like do because Batman obviously doesn't. He's that kind of like lone wolf type of guy. I always kind of like wonder with some of these other superheroes, do they really do believe that they're on a team? Like, they trust one another, and Batman's just kind of the outlier just because he's been betrayed and had everything, you know, go so wrong in his life where he's just so hardened that it's just like he's always expecting the worst.
Maybe. I mean, if we're to believe that this is a continuation of events in like the animated series and things like that, uh, then yeah, he knows that Superman went rogue one time because Darkseid brainwashed them, and so like he had to come up with a contingency plan.
And I
Um,
think that's part of the reason why he did that.
right, exactly. I mean, if this is a continuation from like Superman the animated adventures, then yes, um, because there is a carry through when they did Batman Beyond, and they introduced the Justice League with an older Superman and an older Bruce does mention the fact that Superman did go rogue one time, and he had like a piece of kryptonite just in case. Uh,
That's right. I remember that. That was we might have to do a Batman Beyond film in this series too.
There's the Return of the Joker.
We should definitely watch that one.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's so crazy because they should totally do a Batman Beyond movie because it'd be a way to do Batman, but not like the Batman that we all know,
It'd be great.
right? And then they could totally like make it like they could totally like remove him from like the context that everybody knows him from, and then introduce a new Batman, and yeah, they could totally get Michael Keaton to come back and play old Bruce Wayne because he'd be the perfect age.
God, that'd be great. That'd be fucking amazing.
Right? Although a friend of mine, he did say like, oh, if they did that, then they should get Clint Eastwood to play old man Bruce, which still sounds amazing. But I wanted it to be Keaton.
I think that'd be a great callback.
Exactly, exactly.
God, that'd be fucking awesome.
Right? How amazing would that be?
Well, I'm kind of hoping that they, gaming wise, that they create like a Batman Beyond video game, kind of like they've done with the Arkham Knight series,
Mm,
which has been great. And kind of get Will Friedle to play like to voice Terry McGinnis and stuff. Um,
hmm
uh, if you guys don't know who Will Friedle is, he's the older brother on Boy Meets World.
right. Or for you younger people, he voiced Ron Stoppable on Kim Possible.
Oh God, yeah, I didn't know that.
And yes, I know that because I did catch a few of the episodes.
Yeah. Um,
But yeah,
yeah, but overall,
Will Friedle has done a lot of voice acting. So
he's a great voice
yeah,
actor.
yeah, he is.
He was
Yeah,
a
he's
great
really good.
Batman.
Yeah, he does like the really kind of zany, goofy cartoons, but then he also does like he does really good stuff like the semi-serious stuff like Batman Beyond.
Yeah, what was great with Batman Beyond was when it came out was so popular that they ended up creating a comic series, based
Right.
off the
Yeah, this is like
based
one of
off.
those things, kind of like with Batgirl. They created Batgirl for the old Adam West Batman TV show. I mean, she got so popular that she was put into the comic books. And
Yeah,
similarly
and great character.
with X Men X-23, she was actually created for the old WB cartoon and became so popular that they put her into the comics.
Yeah, great characters.
Yeah. Yeah, and once again, like they did a great job with Batman Beyond, creating a really compelling character, creating a similar origin story to how he becomes Batman with like Bruce Wayne, but just but different enough to be interesting. Although they do go and like retcon it uh, for the end of like towards like the end of Justice League, where they do like that episode epilogue where adult Terry McGinnis finds out that he's the son of Bruce Wayne.
You know what? It's been so long since I've watched. I might need to because I have the DVD series, so
Mm-hmm.
I should probably just rewatch the whole
Yeah, it's
series
back.
again.
It's when they before it's towards the end of the third season of Justice League Unlimited. They do kind of like what is it? One of those like back end kind of uh, season finales for Batman Beyond through Justice League Unlimited.
Right, right.
Yeah, and so like it's an adult Terry McGinnis, and he goes and confronts Amanda Waller, who in Justice League Unlimited is kind of like not the bad guy, but kind of the opposing force to the Justice League because she thinks that she's doing the right thing, and of course the Justice League thinks that they're doing the right thing, but she is like the voice of like, oh, we why shouldn't we be scared shitless. You're an army of super powered people. We would like normal human beings wouldn't stand a chance against you guys. So why shouldn't we create weapons, in case you guys go crazy or try to seize power and things like, kind of like one of those kind of type of characters. But yeah, and then
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, keep going, Andy. I'm sorry.
Oh, but yeah, in that episode titled Epilogue, she reveals that it was her idea to like in some way or form create another Batman because there always needed to be a Batman, and so she, interesting enough, started a project called Batman Beyond, and then she found uh, a couple who had the same psychological profiles as Bruce's parents, and then injected this nanovirus thing to rewrite his father's DNAs to Bruce Wayne. So when they had a kid, the baby would be half Bruce Wayne or Batman,
You know what? That's right. Now I remember that.
right?
That's right. Oh yeah. That was that was huge.
Yeah, and I thought that was pretty cool. I thought, I mean, I didn't think it ruined anything. I was just like, oh, that was pretty cool. So he was his son all along.
Yeah. Um, that's probably why he picked Terry McGinnis because he was
In the
watching.
episode, it turned out like he didn't know, he had no idea that he was his son. But I mean, if we're to give if we're to give credit to Bruce Wayne, even at his old age, he probably suspected uh, or ran a DNA test himself because they made him look look like a young Bruce Wayne in the
Yeah,
cartoon.
it was right.
And even though like the dad, even though his supposed biological father looked nothing like him, his dad had kind of was a redhead, his mom was a redhead, but then he and his brother have black hair.
Yeah,
Yeah, so essentially making them Black Irish.
it's very odd. Yeah.
Yeah, possibly, but not fully buying it.
Um, so what are your I will say like with Justice League Doom, it's that great ass kicking action that is in any animated series stuff.
Mm.
Definitely has like a lot of um, moments that are like, kind of like dark moments. Um, but obviously at the end of the day, are the heroes win out. Um, and yeah, I just think it's a great movie. If you're a fan of any of the animated series stuff and uh, you love like the Justice League animated stuff, then you're gonna love this movie.
Agreed. And I think it's no secret to anyone watching that we appreciate animation, and
Oh
it's
yeah,
funny because my parents, like, they never understood, like, even when I was getting kind of older, I was still watching cartoons, and it's like, oh, you're this and you're such and such age now, why are you still watching cartoons? I was like, because they're fun. It's like, and I appreciate the skill and the time that goes into creating these animated shows, and like, especially when they started to get like a bit more sophisticated in terms of the artwork, like like just like this movie Justice League Doom. It didn't look like Batman the animated series. It definitely didn't look like the Batman Superman animated adventure type of animation. It's there was a real sophistication and like realism put into the drawings.
yeah, there's a lot of love and care that went into it. You can definitely tell that from the animators.
Mm-hmm. Right, and so yeah, it wasn't just like some. Yeah, it wasn't like Hanna Barbera level like Super Friends animation either. So it's like
Thank God, no.
yeah. So yeah, it's a very sophisticated movie, and if you think it's just for kids, I think you should check your assumptions at the door, and really give this movie a chance, especially if you grew up watching the old Batman animated stuff, and you think that now that you're an adult, you think you're beyond that kind of thing, but just give it a chance. I promise it's a good movie.
Yeah, what would you give it as your ranking, Andy?
My rating. Mm, yeah, I give it a 4.
Yeah, that's about where I was gonna go with it too. It's
Yeah, because I
it's
mean,
definitely
as much as great as a movie this is, there are some things that's you just like as an adult you just can't ignore. You know, it's like, well, like how did Mirror Master even get into hit the Batmobile? Did he have to go? Did he travel through like the network of like is like are all mirrors like somehow connected via some mirror network, or did he have to specifically phase into Batman's rearview mirror?
right. So that yeah, there were some holes. There was some stuff that wasn't like fully fleshed out. But I think part of it was because I think they kind of like expect you to know some of the previous lore of some of these characters, and they kind of just went with it. So
Right. Okay.
that's so if this is like your first time watching a superhero film of any kind, maybe you'd be a little bit lost, maybe not like it quite as much. But if
Mm-hmm.
you're a fan, uh, it kind of plays off that like they kind of they don't they expect it like enough about these
Right.
characters that
They just kind of drop you into it, expecting you to like, oh, all of like the fine minutia stuff. So we're just gonna give you like the broad strokes.
yeah. So like I said, for in that case, yeah, for a fan, yeah, definitely a 4 star. If you're not a fan or you don't know much about them, it
Mm-hmm.
might be a little bit tougher to
Right. Or
you know
appreciate, or like
get.
maybe you could still appreciate it. If you're a fan of animation, you can still. I think
Yeah,
you can still appreciate the style.
but yeah, 4 stars. I think it's great, and I'm kind of liking going down this trip of watching the animated Batman, Justice League, Superman films that I haven't seen before.
Mm. Yeah, they're a lot of fun. Oh, yeah, definitely nostalgia. All I'm missing, it's funny when we watch these, or when I watch these, I should have a big bowl of cereal.
Definitely.
All right. Well, there you have it. That's our review for Justice League Doom. Both Robert and I give it a 4. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Whether you thought yes, this you guys are right. This was a great movie, or it's like you guys are a bunch of fucking childs and you need to grow up. Either or. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right. Well, that'll do it for us tonight. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to join us every Tuesday at 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock, sometimes live. Don't forget to catch up on the other shows, the main podcast, Circle of Jerks podcast. Other episodes of Nocturnal Transmissions and Robert's show, Up by Up Down. Don't forget to follow us on our various social media accounts: Twitter at PodcastCOJ and Instagram at Circle of Jerks Podcast. And that'll do it for tonight. And for Robert and myself, we'll say thank you and good night.
See you guys.
And don't do anything I wouldn't.